And two. Welcome to the Driver's Seat Podcast. I'm Derby Dallas, and my guest today is Jason Murra. Thanks for being on the show, man.
No, thank you.
How you been?
I've been good. And yourself?
I've been all right. Just, staying busy.
Yeah, I hear you.
What have you been up to,
Well, just trying to get ready for the Derby season this year. Kind of built a couple cars over the winter, or refreshed a couple cars. I got my Crown Vic here in the background, and a few upgrades to it. I got a rear end underneath it over the winter.
So this is what you're running this year, then?
Yep. Be that, and then I've got on the other side of the shop, I've got a '76 Chrysler that'll be run. I'll run both of them at some point.
Heck yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that here in a little bit, because I normally save, future questions for the end, so people kind of have an idea of where you're going to be. If, say you're in Perryton, someone's like, man, I really like that burnt orange and black car. I'd like to go see it run somewhere. So, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, man, where are you from?
Originally from Blue Earth, Minnesota.
Blue Earth, Minnesota.
Yes, it's right in the middle of the state on the Minnesota-Iowa border.
Wow. I was probably pretty close to there sometime last summer. I was up in Lamar, Iowa.
Okay.
Up in the northwestern corner.
That's about an hour and a half away.
Really?
Yes.
That's pretty crazy. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, yep. Originally, I kind of bounced back and forth between the Iowa border, Minnesota border. Went to school and stuff in Blue Earth.
Well, how'd you end up down here? Because you're in Canyon, Texas now. That's a bit of a move.
Yeah, I've been in the ethanol industry for a lot of my life. I ran an ethanol plant up there, and to be honest, I just got sick and tired of the winters. And the company I was in is fairly large and owned a lot of plants, so I got the opportunity to transfer down here, and I took it as soon as I could to get away from the snow and cold.
Well, now, for how bad the winters were up there, you got just as bad summers here.
Yeah, I'll take 100 degrees every day.
I seen you on Facebook last summer, I think. It was right around this time. It was up in Minnesota where you were from. I guess it was real cold still. And you were sitting out on your porch, and you posted on there. You said, cool 75 degrees here. I think I might go golfing or something like that. And
yep, I like giving everyone a hard time back home.
Well, then a couple months later, it hit probably 110 in the area or something. I was like, I blame you.
Yeah.
You gave us karma.
Yeah, I'll take it, though.
Well, what got you into Derby originally?
I was always a car guy. My first vehicle I ever bought was a 1955 and a half Chevy pickup. I bought it when I was 12 years old and started rebuilding it.
Really?
Always went and watched the local Derby shows and had a local guy that helped teach me and get me into Derby. And I think my first car was like a, 82 to 85, one of them Granadas or whatever.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it didn't stand a chance, but helped me build it. So once we did that, I kind of got addicted.
That's how it starts for everybody, man. They get into one, and it's like, when's the next one?
Yep, exactly.
Well, when was your first Derby, and where?
It was in Blue Earth, Minnesota. They had 3 a year. They had the fair and then 2 fireman derbies. I don't remember which one it was for sure. It might have been the fair. So that's the first derby I ran was there.
What?
I was 14 years old. My dad had to sign the waiver for me to allow me to drive without a license.
What'd he think about it all?
He wasn't much of a car guy, but he was happy to keep me entertained, and if I was something I was happy with, he was willing to do.
That's awesome, man, especially when you get that parental support as a kid, you know what I mean, as a teenager.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Do you remember what you were feeling before you drove out there or while you were sitting out there waiting on other cars?
Oh, it was a nervous wreck. Embarrassing. We got to the track. The local guy, Cooper, he helped me build the car. He used his business truck and trailer, hauled it up to the fair for me, and while we were there, it started raining. We got 6-7 inches of rain while we were sitting there.
Dadgum.
They had to bring pumps out, pump the track off. Well, being new, rookie driver, my car ran out about 5 out of 8 cylinders because everything was wet. I had stock street tires on it. The payloader had to push me into the track.
Holy crap.
It was nervousness and then a lot of embarrassment.
That's kind of how it seems it goes for a lot of people, though. They just want to get out there and run, and their car might not be built up as much as it should be, and then they get their ass handed to them, and they're still like, yeah, I can't wait for the next one, man.
Yeah.
It's such an awesome feeling, and you don't ever really understand until you're actually out there.
That is very true. Yes.
Uh, what are some of your favorite types of cars to run? Because like you said, you got a Vic over here, you got a New Yorker over here behind the camera.
I have run just about everything. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite. Vics are definitely a lot easier to build than most cars that I've come across, but
Yeah.
they've all got their pros and cons. I mean, I love the big old Chryslers because when you hit something,
Yeah, they're
it's
gonna feel it.
it's gonna make a dent. But the Vics and their mobility makes up far more than just a big hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like playing chess with cars that wreck into each other. You got to think about every little possible variable out there.
Yes. Yep.
But you'd say that probably Vics are probably your favorite.
Yeah, I mean, just because there's so much you can do to build them, there's so much information out there on the internet, and you got to weed through half of the BS. But
Yeah.
and
You always end up with that one guy. Oh, you don't need to be running Vics. Go find you an old iron.
yeah, yep, and I understand that, and it's really what you're used to and what you've built. And I typically, whenever I always laugh at all these people on some of these websites asking questions, you got any tips or tricks for this car, or tips or tricks? Well, 90% of the time, the people that respond right away are people that have been in one or two derbies.
Yeah.
The real guys that have been derbying, well, if you have a specific question, they will give you great answers. But if
Yeah.
you give a general question, you're not going to get a real answer.
Well, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be giving you their tips and tricks, because then that's stuff you can use against them later on.
Well, I actually disagree with that fact. I mean,
Really?
a lot of people in the derby world are willing to help and willing to get more competition out there, right? I'm like one. I'm an open book. You want to know what I do with a car? I'll tell you anytime.
Yeah.
And why. Now, once again, I always joke that there's people say do X and 50% are yes, 50% are no. And it's
Yeah.
all how you drive and how you react with that car.
Well, when I first messaged you about being on the show and stuff, you were like, man, set the camera up wherever you want, ask me whatever you want, I don't got nothing to hide. And I thought that was pretty cool, because would you agree with Gerardo that, like, Derby's dying out in some of these smaller places?
I so that's a yes and no question. I would answer. Yes, it is dying out. It is tough because you have that select group of people that are willing to do it. The problem is so many people are scared and don't know how to get into it or think it costs a lot of money, which yes, it can, but a lot of times no. You want to go out and try this? You can do it for a couple $100.
Yeah, for sure. But going back, though, there's a lot of people that aren't willing to help younger people that don't quite understand it, that are just getting into it. Because, I don't want to tell them this secret because it's mine, or they think it's theirs, but you're not like that. That's what I'm saying. It's cool is you've helped me out even, and I've only met you face to face probably 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's just cool that you're willing to help out and give people information that on cars so that they can build the best car that they can.
Yeah, no, I mean I sure will. At any given point, it's tough being new and coming into this sport. There's so many unknowns and so many things that are made up. I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest thing I see is someone coming directly into the sport new that they think they're going to go out and win a derby.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. And it takes time and a lot of effort to learn how to build these cars to go out and win derbies.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years, and I still haven't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been, what did we say, 26 years, 25 years?
Yeah.
And I've only won 2 derbies myself.
Really?
No, over that time. I've finished second a lot of times.
But, I mean, you're still getting paid for second and getting some trophies for second. It might not be as good as first, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's, as we've talked about, for me, it's not going out there and driving the cars. It's me going out and building the cars and how do they compete and how do they stand up. And, all right, bring it back into the shop after it's demolished and say, all right, what bent where, why did this go wrong, and how can I fix that the next time?
Yeah, what do we need to fix? It's a big learning game, too. There's so much to learn about it, and then it's crazy. sitting out in the stands, you think, oh, these are just a bunch of drunk rednecks going out and hitting each other. They're not in the pits watching you pull a car down, after you've nosed it up, watching you pull it down on a trailer, or in the shop watching you use, just all the work and time that goes into it. It's crazy.
It is. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. What's the hardest part of getting started in Derby?
Oh, hardest part of starting. I would say just the basic knowledge is probably the hardest thing. I mean, I think that's what scares so many people away. I mean, you sit and read a set of rules, and it's probably foreign language to almost anyone new that ever reads them.
Yeah.
You almost need an interpreter.
That's true. What is some advice you'd give somebody just starting out wanting to get into Derby? Like, what would you tell them? We've had Jeremy Rowland has said that he thinks people should help in the pits for a year or two so that they can kind of get a grasp. Or Gerardo Chavez said that he thinks people should get tools first so that they have their own tools to work on cars. What's some advice that you'd give to somebody just starting out and wanting to get into it?
I would say if you want to try it, you want to get into it, I'd say go find a car. And then find someone that has derbied before to help you, mentor you, or something along that lines. And understand that you don't need to put $20,000 into a car to go out and try it, see if you like it. You can do it for $250, $300.
Like me and you were talking about before we started this episode. They have chain and bangs, or what'd you call it, wire?
It used to be a wire class, yeah. Just it's all number 9 wire.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But they still have those where you just knock the windows out, chain or wire, the door shut and go out there and hit somebody, and.
Yep. There's still a lot of areas that do that. Like we talked about, one of my biggest concerns is you get into these lighter build classes. Is a lot of times it seems like safety gets cut back, and for all your promoters out there, let the safety items be heavy and keep people safe.
Yeah, that's the most important part is safety. Especially when you're building and you're thinking about your own safety. It's like, do I really want to make a floating cage on this car, or should I just go ahead and weld it down and make sure it's solid so if I get hit, I'm not getting seriously injured?
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be... Let anything happen in the driver's compartment. The rest can be stock.
Yeah. What normally goes into a build, Like that was kind of a broad question, but like...
Do I answer it with a lot?
Yeah, obviously, but what do you start with besides... you strip the car out, but...
You're talking for a new build?
Yeah.
For someone new getting in? Or,
yeah.
Yeah, typically, you can just get rid of all the flammable items, get rid of, any light material in the cars. If that's something, just to start out, that's all you have to do. There's nothing else extra you really need to do. Just make it safe for yourself and keep the motor running, and you can go out there and have fun for 5 minutes.
What are some of your favorite and least favorite parts about building a car, like a new car that you just start?
Honestly, the least favorite is all the welding that goes into these things anymore.
Really?
I'm typically 3 big rolls of wire into my cars anymore, and it's fine during the winter, but when it's 100 degrees out and you're in the shop and trying to run beads, it sucks.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't even get a build in the shop. I build outside, so you got this. You don't even have any shade on you out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sucks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say stripping sucks too.
I don't mind that part of it anymore, other than some extra smells and nasty stuff you run into from time to time. But get yourself a couple power drills with the right bits in. You can strip out a car in 3-4 hours and have it down to bare metal.
I don't know how many times I've gotten just angry and just grabbed the cutting torch and started cutting whatever I could get to, just to get it out of there, man. Like you said, the gross stuff you run into too is. I think I found a love glove from 1970s, man. Like, it was insane. It was so gross.
We've never found anything real crazy in any of the cars, but it's for me, I don't even bother. I just take out every seat. Just
Yeah.
get them out and get them out of the way. And, you know, you can get into that dash. And just, if you have a little patience, it goes pretty good.
Yeah. The dashes are probably one of my least favorite parts on stripping wise, because you get there and you get all the bolts that you can see out, and it doesn't move at all.
Yep.
And it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's normally when the sledge or the big hammer comes
Yeah.
out in anger. Yes. Yeah. We had, you know, back to old stories. When I used to have a bunch of friends, first into Derby and probably 3-4 years into it, we used to get a group of 10, 15 of us sitting around drinking beer, supposedly working on the car, which usually ended up being 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
We had a friend of mine. He'd never run a cutting torch before, so I'm like, hey, he wanted to try it. He was obsessed about it, and I'm like, that was before I realized unbolting stuff was much easier than cutting it out with a torch. So we were trying to cut out the passenger seat of the car, which is just 4 bolts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gave him the whole 5-second lesson on how to run a torch. I'm like, here, cut these 4 bolts. So he's down there cutting away, so I get up underneath the hood and I'm stripping out stuff and just start talking, have a beer, and all of a sudden I look around the corner and there's flames up to the roof inside the car, and he's still underneath there with that torch, trying to get them bolts cut out.
When you're focused, man, you don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah, yep, and we ran out and we got water. We eventually got the fire out, but it was just one of them entertaining moments.
When you like I said, when you're cutting, you don't see what's going on above, So there could be 30-foot flames above you, and you're still down there just working on that one bolt.
Yep, exactly. And we never did get the seat out. We had to take over for him.
There's a lot of life lessons, like using a cutting torch and welding and stuff, that you can learn through working on Derby cars.
Yes,
And
very much.
I think that's a pretty cool part about building, too, is because you just... Not only are you learning how to build these things to be able to take a shot from a Cadillac at 30 miles an hour, but you're also learning yourself on how to weld and cut, and it's just a jack of all trades, Derby is.
It is, and it all depends on the classes that you're in. It's these it just takes so much effort and welding, and it is the CDGA rules that we run typically. So, I pull my car in, and first thing I do is just pull the body off the frame and get that exposed. And
I've actually never done that while building a car.
Yeah, I did it for the first time with this one, and it makes life a whole lot easier.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe with the next one I'll have to try it.
There you go.
You moved down here from Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Like we've talked about it already, but what are some differences in derbies that you've noticed between here and there?
The builds and the skill level is a lot of the same. The big difference is there's one every 15 miles up there.
Yeah. I noticed that when I went up there to Iowa, which everybody probably gets tired of hearing me talk about Iowa, but I mean, it's one of the only places I've gone that's not in the Texas Panhandle for a derby. Those people eat, breathe, and sleep derby. It's like a religion up there in the north.
Yeah, it's every county fair, every fire department typically has a derby at least once a year, if not twice a year. You don't get the big car counts. Some of the better shows do, but a lot of time it's 10 to 20 cars, and
that's not a bad car count though either.
Yeah.
That's enough to go out and put on a good show.
Yep.
But you said there's differences in the ways cars are built too?
It's yes and no. I mean, it depends. Everyone runs a little different rules. One thing I've seen as a trend over the years is typically you get a bunch of people involved in typically like wire class or chain and bang, something like that. All of a sudden they get a bunch of people involved in the sport. They get a big car count. Well, then them same people are bitching because it costs so much.
Yep.
And that they're burning up a car every derby. So then they switch to a welding, which don't get me wrong, I love the welding rules. I mean, I like that a car can last 3 or 4 derbies.
Same.
But then that class is all of a sudden really hard to get new people to come in and start derbying again.
Yeah.
So you get a trend of 5-10 years, and then all of a sudden that group starts getting out of it. Now derbying's getting down. So then they bring back a chain and bang, or they bring a number 9, and they get people in. Then they change the rules. It's, it's like a 5-10 year cycle.
That's where when I was talking to you about me trying to get a derby started where I live up in Kansas, having the limited weld cars like what you have back here, and also having the mod cars, like the bigger cars than, like, more welds, higher horsepower engines, stuff like that. But also, after those two consolation heats, bringing in maybe a bone stock or a chain and bang or a wired class, just that'll give these guys that are building bigger cars time to fix theirs, but also maybe bring in more newer people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be a brilliant idea. Now, I'm actually very much against running the heats and the consi and the feature.
Oh, really?
I love the one and dones. Mainly is because I'm traveling.
Yeah.
My closest derby is Perryton, which is 2.5 hours away. That is the closest one I have. I do not like loading up all my crap in case the car breaks down.
I hear you there.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I hate putting everything in there.
The only derby I've been outside of Perryton is Spearman, and it sucked having to get everything loaded up. You think, well, what are we gonna need? And everything.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
you just end up having to load basically a mobile shop up in the back of your pickup, and like you said, drive 2.5 hours.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the one and dones,
But I think if you have a high car count, though, the heats are the way to go.
Yeah, you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
if you get a big car count, and to me, a big car count is over 20.
Yeah. Which Perryton kind of is getting over that.
Yep.
And I think with Track Shot Live coming to Perryton this year, and all the people, like Tiny said in the last episode, all these people are calling him wanting to come down.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's honestly not too far out in left field to think that Perryton might end up being a 2-day show one day in the upcoming years.
That would be a great thing to happen. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we have a big enough arena. We have, with all those corrals and stuff out of the pits, we'd have enough room for cars. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Other than the fact that there's no pit room.
Yeah. Well, like Tiny had said, he's been talking to some people about maybe moving the corrals out of there and making more pit room for people,
Mm-hmm.
which I think that'd be a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to you moving down here and having to, or seeing differences, did you have to change your driving style up any?
Actually, it is a very different driving style between up there and here, I will say. And I don't know if that's just because it's my hometown and the people I knew or what the situation was, but it seemed like everything up there was much more wide open throttle, and your head better be on a swivel, otherwise you're gonna get planted.
I noticed that a few times too. Those guys throw caution to the wind and just balls to the freaking wall the whole time.
Yep. And that's just a product of having that many derbies. When you're getting 20 cars and able to run 10, 15 derbies a year, there's still going to be them wild childs out there, that are they're gonna let you know they're there.
Yeah. When you moved down here, did you expect to find any derbies? Did you already know about some of them that went on, or?
So I had done the research, and I had known that the Amarillo Derby,
The Turkey Bash.
yes, that was here, and I actually hauled the truck down all the way from Minnesota to run in Turkey Bash. Well, I was here a couple months, and they canceled Turkey Bash, and have not had it since. So ended up having to do a lot of research, finding where derbies were, and so I typically run in Perryton every year, and Abilene Speedway, and then ran in Roswell last year for the first time. Did eventually take that truck up to Colorado Derby.
So you do quite a bit of traveling for Derby then.
Kind of have to in the area. It's just nothing's close. So.
Yeah. But you didn't really get to run the Turkey Bash or anything, and I've talked to a few people about maybe them bringing it back. You're one of the people that would like to see it come back, yeah?
Yes, I would love to see it come back. Honestly, I've thought about promoting it myself and putting it together.
Oh, really?
The problem is I won't get to run in it.
Yeah.
It's so much opportunity. You could actually get a huge amount of money from the fans to where you could put a good payback for people.
Yeah.
I think the Turkey Bash timing was just bad with the day after Thanksgiving. It was hard to get a crowd out there.
Yeah.
But, I was in Amarillo last night for Monster Trucks, and that arena was packed with people.
Yeah. Well, talking to Chavez, he does a lot of work in Amarillo because he works out of Stinnett, and he said that to this day, he talks to people from Amarillo that didn't even know there was a derby going on, and that's just crazy to me because I mean, I guess on Facebook I'd always see stuff for the turkey bash, but I was never in Amarillo, and it wouldn't surprise me that it wasn't being advertised around town.
Yeah, and I would agree with that 100%. I mean, me being new to the area and actually bringing Derby in to the Amarillo Canyon area, people are asking, oh, yeah, we used to have Derbies 20 years ago at the state fair and stuff like that. I'm like, you actually had Derbies 2 or 3 years ago in
Yeah.
town, and no one knew about it.
I think Turkey Bash had the potential to be a really big show, bigger than what it was.
Hmm.
And like you said, I think the timing and then the lack of, which, like I said, I was young when it was all going on. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I was never in Amarillo. And so the lack of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Crowd support or.
Well, no, like where they, advertisement. The
Yeah.
lack of advertising
Yeah.
around town. I think that helped with the low crowds too.
Yep.
So I think maybe change the date a little bit. Get it away from the Blizzard Bash, those dates. Get it maybe in the middle of summer even.
Yeah, I've been, like I said, I've looked into it myself, and I've been trying to figure out where is a date that works where you're not fighting with a big show. And let's be honest, there's enough big shows anymore that they are pretty much year round.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, I mean, look at, you were there last night and the crowd was packed for monster trucks. And
Yes.
I can't think of any really big shows like the Blizzard Bash or Capital Carnage or anything that go on in April. I mean, that might be a good time for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Anyways, we'll move on. What has been your least favorite build throughout your Derby, like the whole 30 years you've been running, give or take? What's been your least favorite build that you've had?
Oh, least favorite. It's probably. Oh, I don't know. I'd say it's probably like some '80s model Chevy Caprice that I hated everything about that. Just nothing went right.
Well, let me say, Chevy Caprices don't hold up well against Jason Murra built cars, just so you know that.
It happens.
Did you learn anything from it besides that 80s Chevy Caprices suck?
No, nothing. And that was a wire class at the time, and back when I was Derby, and everything was wire classes before '80s and newer.
Yeah.
And I was running '80s newer cars going out against all this old iron. I was getting creamed every which way, but that car just, it folded like a pancake. There was like an '80s Oldsmobile wagon too. I did a full track run across the track, flag drop, maybe made it about 12 seconds, went across, hit someone. Well, it was before I knew. I only had a ground wire from the motor or to the frame to the battery. Never had anything to the motor. Well, it demolished the back end of the car, separated the metal. I had no ground anymore.
Oh,
12,
snap.
12 seconds done.
That's crazy. Like, why not run a ground to the motor?
I just didn't know any better at the time. So
I got you. I got lucky, and I've had a lot of people that have helped me with my cars and kind of taught me stuff like that. Like, no, don't do that. Do this instead.
Yep.
And
I run both now.
Yeah.
I should go to the frame and to the motor.
Really?
Yes.
I've never thought about running to the frame,
Mhm.
but no, it still wouldn't have helped when my battery jumped into my back seat. It just ripped everything that was in there. So, but I mean, that's smart though, having just that backup, you know.
Yep. And everything I do now is double. And every ignition wire I have two. Every starter wire I have two.
That's smart.
Every power wire is two of them.
You probably have a heck of a time in here getting all that wired up and set up.
Yeah. Well, I'm also old school. I don't run a switch box.
Same.
I am still the twist the wires guy. I've never had a problem with that. It's never failed me. So I will always stick with that.
I used to run switches, and Jeremy Rowland was helping me build my car, and he goes, "You don't need that crap." And I said, "What crap?" And he goes, "These dang switches."
Yeah.
And he goes in there, we pull them out, and he's like, "You just twist these two wires and arc it off." And I was like, "All right." No,
Yeah.
I'm good. I just opened this one here. And you can actually see in the GoPro video, the one I was telling you about, where you were trying to push me up on the berm, when I hit Derrick Court, my starter blew up, and I didn't realize that. But I'm over there. You can just see me trying to arc my wires together to get it going again. So
Yep.
that's cool that you don't run wires either. There's been a few people that I've met that don't do that.
Yep. And it's switch box would be a lot easier. Nice, you mount it, nice location. I actually built one in that Derby truck that I hauled down here.
Yeah.
Spent a bunch of time, and so it got trucked a little over 1,000 miles. When it got here, it won't start because the wires got loose or vibrated loose, and I'm like, all right, that solves that for me. I'm never gonna do that.
Well, yeah. Well, like that's just one more variable to go wrong
Yep.
with your switches.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me. I keep burping.
Good stuff.
Yeah, very good. What's the hardest you've ever been hit, Jason?
Oh, I was in Blue Earth Fair Derby, and I was going across the track. I also learned why people jump out of a car when there's a fire. I always used to think everyone's a bunch of sissies whenever they jump out of the car, but it was all in one situation. So I was full track running someone, they were full track running, and we met in the middle. And he jumped up over my hood, and his bumper stopped right here.
If all else fails, hit him in the carburetor, you know?
Yeah. But when he came, he bent all my exhaust headers over, and it snapped off the master cylinder. Brake fluid hit the pipes. Instant
Whoosh.
flames. Well, in this scenario, I couldn't get out. I had a car in the
Yeah.
front, and that was back when they used to make you run wires in the windows so you couldn't crawl out the windows.
Oh,
either.
yeah. That's
So-
dangerous.
Yeah, it's just dumb now that we think about it. But
Yeah.
and so the firemen come in there, or the fire extinguishers. Well, that was where I learned that you can't breathe in fire extinguisher
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, that was terrible. So I do understand why people jump out of cars now whenever there's a little fire.
That must have been a heck of a shot
It was. My car actually fired back up. I ran more in the Derby.
with no header.
Yep.
Me and a few buddies of mine that run, we always have this agreement that if it comes down to us two, we're just going to back up end to end and meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Give out one last big shot for the crowd to see. Instead of sitting there, you always see people chasing each other in circles and stuff, and the crowd just like, hit him,
Yeah. Yeah, it gets tough when when you get down to the last two cars. It's hard. You're just trying to maneuver to get the other person out of position. They're trying to do the same thing. So yes, you end up doing a lot of circles out there. Yeah, it's not exciting for the crowd, but for us out there driving, it's a lot of planning and execution.
Yeah, that goes back to me saying it's like chess with a bunch of big cars that are hitting each other,
Mhm.
You're constantly thinking and head is constantly on a swivel. And dude, you hit somebody and you're looking this way, and then all of a sudden you're getting jerked this way because
Mhm.
somebody came and cleaned your clock over here.
Yeah. That's something I've never run a team derby, and I don't think that I ever could, because you see a lot of these team derbies where a car comes in for a hit and then they sit there and hold that person.
While the other guy backs up and
Yeah, when I make that hit, I'm actually letting off the throttle, already hitting the gear backwards to get out of there, to make sure I'm not sitting there to get smoked by the next person coming in.
yeah, and it's like 99% probability if you're not in a team show and you hit somebody, somebody's gonna come and hit you too if you just sit there.
Yeah, and you sit and watch Blizzard Bash and watch them team driving, and it's crazy how many people get taken out because they're sitting there holding the car.
Yeah. Well, it's almost, and those guys too though, being in a team derby would be so hard because you got to know basically what your teammate's thinking. It's almost like they have freaking headsets in their cars talking, "Hey, let's get this guy," or "You do this and I'll do this."
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best things about coming down here. Running back up there, I knew everyone.
Yeah.
You had your big friends group, you had your big group that you ran with. So you'd be going around the track, like, oh, I shouldn't hit him. Oh, I
Yeah.
shouldn't hit him. And I come down here, I know nothing or nobody. And I'm like, okay, now I can be more strategic. And
Yeah.
first derby, I'm very strategic. Well, then I start meeting a few people, and I'm already in that boat now. I'm like, oh, I can't hit him. I can't hit him.
Well, I know you'll hit me, so that's all that
Oh,
matters.
come on now.
No, I just like giving you crap about it, man, because I remember me and you were talking before the Derby last year, and I'm like, all right, Jason, I got your back. And you're like, I got your back too, Dallas. And then here I am. You said I hit you, but I don't remember, so if I did, I apologize. But here I am, I'm sitting there, and I look up, and all of a sudden you're pushing me back up against the berm. I'm like, what the hell, Jason? We had an agreement.
Yeah. It's situational awareness.
Yeah.
I had motor problems. I needed to make contact.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know, too. We're on a time limit to make hits.
Yes.
we have, what, a minute and a half to 2 minutes to make a hit?
Yeah, and that's variable by judge. That can be 20 seconds or it can be 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you're a little bit more seasoned than I am, but I'll be in there and I'll hit somebody and be like, all right, my 2 minutes is up. I got to go hit somebody else. And over the years, I've kind of gotten better with time management and awareness. And it's like, okay, just take a deep breath and calm down. You have a full minute and a half or whatever before you have to make another hit. But when you're sitting there, like you said, your engine's not running, you're like, all right, time to go hit somebody.
Yeah, and in Parrington specifically, I went out and I had a wire that was grounding out my ignition, and
Yeah.
it felt like I was there trying to get it started for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it fired back up, and I'm like, no one's yelling at me to break my flag. All right, so I think that's about the time I went and hit you, you know.
Yeah, which...
I don't know how much time it actually was or what, but it seemed like forever.
Yeah, which I'm not upset about it. You know, it's a derby. You got to expect to get hit, you know. But going back to what you said about nobody's telling me to break my stick or anything, a lot of these veteran guys that have been wanting to help me, they're like, don't break your stick until they come up and poke you with their flag or break it themselves.
Yes.
And it's like, because that little second there that you took to break your stick meant finishing up a place higher than what you did.
Yes, yeah, it can make a big difference. And
Yeah.
it's unless something severely went wrong or I know I'm out of the money, I won't break my stick until they tell me to.
Yeah, which it's different too. In the heat runs, if I get hit and something goes wrong and I can't get my car started, or I'm up on the berm, I'm not gonna sit there and burn my engine up trying to get off of it. I'm gonna break it and be ready for the consolation. You know what I mean?
So you're one of the smarter ones. You're not going to sit there and hold the throttle when you know you can't move.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I've learned. You know, I've been there where I just hold the throttle and can't get off the berm.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've learned a little bit. Going back to that hit, man, were you afraid of getting injured before you were like, all right, let's let her eat, you know, and just opened her up?
Younger? No. I was invincible younger. Now that I am a lot more seasoned.
Yeah.
Now I there's a lot of times where I'll just close my eyes before a hit. You know, it's like, how much is
Lock
this
your
gonna-
elbows up against
Ye-
the steering
Yep,
wheel.
Yep, I am notorious for bending steering wheels and steering shafts. 2019, every derby I went through, I had to put a whole new steering shaft and steering wheel in.
Really?
Yes.
Were you buying those off like NLR and NERAT and stuff?
I was
or?
making all my own.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, with my habits, I can't afford to buy good
Because
ones.
you get on NLR and NERAT and they're like $200 for a steering shaft.
Yep. But
So-
you know, even making your own, you go spend $100 on knuckles and the steering shaft, you're in $130, $140.
Just go down to the Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at what those places like that have that you can use on your car and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't steal my idea. A lot of questions get sent in to me asking, you know, why we pick the numbers for our cars we do. I have 12X because that was my high school basketball number. Plus, in the old school derbies, everybody had an X on their door. So I was like, you know what, I'll just make it 12X. That'll be cool. Or you go back to Kyler Balzer, his number is 116, and he puts call upside down. So if he ever gets rolled, it says call 911. So, you know, you got these guys that put a little bit more of a thought into their cars or
Yeah.
their numbers and stuff. But why do you choose number 75 for your cars?
So it's like every kid's fantasy. I was a huge fan of Keith Millard from the Minnesota Vikings.
All right.
He was number 75.
There you go.
And so in football, there was actually junior high when we got to pick our numbers.
Yeah.
Me and another kid were both Keith Millard fans, and we had to argue about it. And I lost the argument because he was a year older than me.
Ah.
So I ended up being number 61 through football all my high school career, but always loved the number 75, and that's all because of Keith Millard.
That's another reason I like you, man. You're a Vikings fan. I haven't found another Vikings fan in the panhandle of Texas until you moved here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am a Vikings fan, yes.
It's been a hard couple years for us, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know. With the coaching that we have, I just don't know that we're ever gonna go anywhere.
Oh, you don't like Zimmer?
I do not. No.
I do.
Okay.
But I don't like Cousins.
And I do.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Man.
He's the best quarterback we've had in a long time.
See, I disagree. I think, which he's not good right now. He's been sucking it up. Case Keenum was a light years better than cousins, in my opinion.
Oh boy, this podcast is going a whole different direction.
Well, let's not let that happen. A lot of people always ask, why'd you choose the number you did? Well, some of us, it goes back to high school, like you said, one of your football heroes had it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like Kyler Balzer with the 116, or even Heath Schulte with the have to pee. People put thought into that and want to make it funny, or, does it have any significance to you besides that?
No, not at all.
I got you.
Just a number that's always stuck with me and I've always liked.
I've had a lot of people ask about numbers, and a lot of people ask about paint jobs too. They're like, why do you pick the colors you do? So I might as well ask, why do you pick burnt orange and black?
So the burnt orange is new.
Okay.
That is something relatively new. The black has always been, so just from my driving experience, you turn around, the first thing you see is a brighter color.
Okay, so we're about to have a little bit of an argument here, but I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. So that's why I've always stayed away from brighter colors and always done my base coat as black. I've always done white lettering in the past, and just because of the Roswell Derby last year, I started. It was a Halloween Derby. I did some orange because of pumpkins. And,
Oh, yeah.
and it kind of started sticking with me, and I kind of like it. So.
There you go. It looks good for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing, you can't see the car in the background, but the one thing I've started doing here is I paint my cars black. I put my number on it. I bring the car out into the driveway, and I call all the neighborhood kids here, turn them loose with a white paintbrush, and just say, "Have fun."
We'll have to get a picture of it or something before I leave here and put it up in the video so people can see.
Yeah.
I do my color scheme, purple and turquoise for suicide awareness.
Okay.
I always get made fun of. People are like, "Oh, look at the Barney car," because Barney the dinosaur is freaking purple and turquoise.
Mm-hmm.
But since I've met my girlfriend and it's their family and stuff, I've tried to been pretty vocal on the whole suicide awareness thing. So, being a Derby guy, what's the one way you know how to raise awareness?
Yep.
Through your car.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just think it's kind of cool, even all the way down to our paint schemes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
We're always thinking about things.
Yes.
But, no, I don't like black cars because I think you're scared if you run a black car because you don't want to get hit. But, yeah.
I don't mind getting hit. I just don't want to get hit first.
That makes sense. Mine goes back to, purple and turquoise also works out because they're bright colors. Back in the old school days when my grandpa was making cars, it was how about your car looked and the bright colors, or at least around here. I don't know how it was up in Minnesota, but everybody liked the bright cars, and being a kid, the first thing you see is the bright colored car.
Yes,
So
one of the favorites at our county fair used to be always a guy he'd do the spray can chrome, paint his car
really?
that. And then
You'll
black.
definitely see that thing underneath the
Man,
lights.
it was awesome. It was just a pretty looking car. But yeah, no, I agree. It's but that's why I just that's me. I turn around, the first thing that catches my eye
is a bright colored car.
Yep.
And I'm just messing with you on it. I mean, I'm not trying to hound you or anything for painting your car black,
I mean, it's gloss black.
Yeah, it shines a little bit.
I don't do the flat black like everyone. I do the gloss.
There you go. Give it a little bit of shine.
Yep.
What's the furthest you've ever traveled for a Derby, man? I mean, I get you moved to Minnesota to Texas and you've been derbying here, but what's the furthest you've traveled for a Derby?
Probably 8.5 hours was the furthest, and that was the first truck derby I did once I moved down here up in Colorado.
Oh, really?
I don't remember where it was, but
that's pretty cool, man. I mean, a lot of traveling for sure, though.
it is. That's definitely something new and different, and that's, up there it was no problem to do 10, 15 derbies a year. Now down here, because everything is so far away, I'm doing 4 or 5 at most.
Yeah. Well, have you ever been loaded after not passing inspection or anything?
Yes, I have been loaded.
A lot of people don't realize that we have pre-derby inspections that we have to pass to follow the rules and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it for that you got loaded for?
There's twice I've been loaded. The first one was a very entry level number 9 wire derby. It was in Albert Lee, Minnesota, and went over there with a car, and I had a dashboard bar, safety bar, and one behind the seat. They won't allow a bar behind the seat.
What?
No, it was like,
Good Lord.
yes, and they said if I cut the bar out, I could run, and I said, no way,
Yeah.
ain't no way in hell.
That's crazy. Expect when they want you to, like you said, the driver's safety. Let that kind of be a little laxed.
Mhm.
But when it comes to everything else, then you can get strict because you don't want your drivers getting hurt, man.
Yep, yep, exactly. So I got loaded that time, and then another time it was before you could preload bumpers. I used to have a piece of 2x4 solid iron stuffed inside of my bumpers all the time, and I finally got caught with it after a lot of derbies, and they wouldn't even let me take it out. They just said load it and go home.
Really?
Yep.
That's after you pay the entry fee and everything.
Yes. Yep.
That's tough.
Yep.
And that goes, like I was telling you earlier, man, I try to follow the rules or even underbuild a little bit. So, because I only run 1 to 2 or 3 shows a year, I'm not trying to get loaded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the hard thing. So we were talking about this earlier with rules. You think everything is very defined, and me, I think everything is such a gray area.
Yeah.
And what was the comment you said that if it doesn't say it,
Oh,
don't do it?
yeah, because on Chad's rules it says if it doesn't say you can, then don't.
Yeah.
At the very bottom of the page it says that, and I'm like, all right, it doesn't say it. I'm not gonna do it.
For a lot of people that means an open book. You're like, well, let's see what happens.
Let's see what the rules don't say then.
Yes. Yep.
Or let's see what they do say. Sorry, that was backwards.
Yeah. Yep. And that goes back to someone new entering the derby world. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I read through a set of rules, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What the hell are they really trying to say? And
Yeah,
it's everyone's individual interpretation of it.
that's true. But I do like Chad's rules though. They're kind of a happy median between overbuilt, like too freaking way out there, and not enough.
Yes, yeah. I will say this is my favorite set of rules ever.
Really.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive too, because like you said, you've been derbying for 25, 30 or whatever years. Like that's a lot of derbying.
Yeah.
And then a lot of rule changes and stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep. No, I like them. It's cars can last, and they leave you with enough room to kind of try some things.
yeah. Speaking of roll cages and stuff, you were showing me before here. You have a bolt-in roll cage over here. It's not all welded together. It's bolted together.
Yes, correct. I built for all the Fords, Lincoln, Marquis, 83 and newer to '02. That bolt-in cage will go in
Really?
any of them.
That's pretty cool. You're not spending all the time sitting here welding cage together, and you just with your impact,
Yes.
and
Yep,
get it together.
It's a great thing to have. Now, there was a lot of planning,
Yeah.
a lot of getting it situated, but yeah, no, it's nice to have.
Especially like the roll cage is one of the longest things if some people be like, oh, I can do the roll cage in half a day, or whatever, but for me, the roll cage is one of the longest things to do, and it's because you're in weird positions welding it together and stuff. I feel like a bolt-in cage would be pretty smart to do, so that's impressive, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the best part is when you do a bolt-in cage, you can have it out in your shop, and you can do a full 360-degree weld. There's no flaws. And
Yeah.
then you put it in your car. You're not trying to bend in ways that are not normal to get in there and get an arc struck.
You don't have your neck up against the floorboard while your feet are dangling out the window or whatever trying to weld.
Yep, exactly.
What's been some of your favorite memories throughout your derby career, whether it's been helping people in the pits or watching or driving or whatever? What's been some of your favorites?
Really, my favorites of all time was the group of people we used to have together. This is my derby life is really in 2 different stages. Before I moved down here, which was in 2018, I had not derbied for probably 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. Before that, I had such a huge friends group. We'd build cars together. We would drink a few too many Busch Lights, just have a blast. And some of the stories and trips of us going to the derbies were entertaining more than the derby itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually, that building got to the point where we got older. People started moving away.
Having kids.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So pretty soon it was just me building cars, and to me at that point it was all about me and the friends group. So I'm like, I think I'm going to be done with this.
Yeah, if your friends aren't around, then really what's the point of... obviously there's the the adrenaline shot and everything of you being in the arena and stuff. But I mean, you make friends become family while you're building cars and stuff.
Yes, yep. So whenever I moved here, I really kind of had the opportunity to reset all my hobbies. Moved away from where I graduated from,
Yeah.
basically moved down where there's no one. So I'm like, you know what? I kind of like to get back into Derby, and built the shop to accommodate that.
Yeah.
And now, to me, it's more about building the cars. I love coming out here on the weekends in the winter, and I'll spend 6, 8 hours here just
Really?
going over every little detail. And it's very different than it was to begin with.
Yeah.
Before it was everyone was around drinking beer. Now it's just about me and making the cars right.
Do you ever get your son out here to help you with it or anything?
Oh yeah, yep. I have 2 sons actually. My oldest is 21.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, he lives in northern Iowa. He is in demolition derbies himself.
Heck yeah.
And that's Jacob. And then I have my youngest son Cameron, who is 6. He's out here with me quite a bit, playing around with the cars and doing what he can.
It's been kind of cool for you then, for derbying this long, and then now your oldest son, he's into it, and then so you've kind of gotten to help him out and give him some of your knowledge that you've gained over the years and stuff to help him.
Yep. It's been fun. He did his first truck when he was 16, I believe, maybe 17. Ran his first. He got second place, and it was just everyone talks about, they don't know who was more excited, Jacob or me.
That would be an awesome feeling, because like I said, you've been derbying forever, and then just to see your son be able to get up there on the podium too, I couldn't imagine what that feeling would be like.
Yep, yeah, it was a proud moment.
Do you hope to get your youngest son into it too?
It's not something I'd force him to, but if he wants to, I will gladly support him. And honestly, I don't know how much longer I'll do it. If I do it another 10 years, we talked about how I'm getting older, and it's harder to even turn around in the cars and stuff like that, And honestly, I have all the equipment, I have all the setup. I'd love for Cameron, if he wants to do it, here you go. He'd be a mile ahead of where I was at his age,
for sure, too.
Equipment-wise.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Have you ever ran the Blizzard Bash or the Capital Carnage or anything, or?
No, I have never been to what I would consider a big show derby. This is the first year I actually tried getting into Blizzard Bash. I tried getting into some of the Utah shows. With the sign up and as many people trying to get into these shows, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I've never tried to sign up for these shows, but they say that it's some internet deal where you get on and it's sold out like that.
Yeah.
People get on there and register like within seconds. It's filled.
Blizzard Bash, I was probably logged in within like 2 or 3 seconds, and it was full.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you have on one hand, you have people or guys like Gerardo saying that they think small town derby's dying because of these big shows, and then you go look and these big shows are selling out like in seconds.
Yeah. And what it is payback. Money or beer?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah.
Old mom's gonna see this and be like, "Hey,
it's my fault."
Yeah, blame Jason, Mom.
In reality, I think it is just the money. I really do. These small town shows are, they're paying $1,000, $1,200. It's hard to attract the big derbiers for that amount of money.
Yeah, like that one I was telling you about up in Utah. They have 2 shows back-to-back weeks. One's $12,000, the other's $15,000.
Yeah.
Compared to Perryton, where I think the mod payout's $5,000.
I think it went down last year.
Really?
But yeah.
Somewhere in that area though. Nowhere near 12 or 15 is what I'm getting at here.
No.
And I do think that's where the small town derby is starting to kind of die out. But you get guys like Chad Markley, who's promoting them and stuff, and car counts are starting to get a little bit bigger, so payouts are starting to get a little bit bigger and stuff. And like I was telling you, I think Perryton has the opportunity, if Tiny and those guys that are in charge of it play their cards right, it could be one of the bigger shows in the area.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and it's money brings people, but you need people to get money. It's
Yeah.
catch-22. But if you have a $5,000 or $10,000 to win show, you're gonna bring in people.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring in cars.
For sure.
And for most part, you look at a lot of these derbies, and it's not the car money or entry money that makes up the payback. It's how many people are in the stands.
Yeah.
And, how many people are there to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, we're coming up here on the end of the interview. Everybody always tells me, well, really? That went by super quick, but we're almost at an hour here. So,
Okay.
what are your future plans for the year? What shows do you want to go run? What cars do you plan on running? Or
Okay, well, I will be in Parrington this fall again. I don't know whether it'll be the Vic or the Chrysler, or there's also a Lincoln that I have sitting around that it might come into play. Probably be in Abilene Speedway for both their derbies. If Roswell, New Mexico has their second derby, they had their first last year, I will be down for that one again.
I'd like to, I'm getting some stuff planned for my YouTube channel here. I'd like to maybe get a travel down to Abilene or heck, even Roswell or whatever, and get some content for what I have coming up here. I don't want to announce it yet, so nobody's like, hey, I'm going to do that before he has a chance. You know what I mean?
Yep, no, understood.
But no, man, I do that or do this last question. So like I said, if people see, oh, that 75 orange and black car, he drove pretty dang good here in Perryton. I'd like to go see him drive somewhere else if I have the chance,
Okay. Well,
Just so.
I don't know if I can do the two-wheel show again like I did last year.
Yeah, you had some bad luck in Perryton.
Yeah, front right broke off and back left axle broke off and hobbled around on two wheels.
Like, you're lucky you didn't get a real, like, somebody coming in and just cleaning your clock, man.
Yep.
But no, in case you've built any fan base or whatever, in the area, maybe somebody's like, hey, I'll go check him out down in Abilene, But yeah, man, that's all I got. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll have to do it again because you obviously have plenty of stories for sure.
I do, yes. I have a lot of stories. None of them involve beer. Or wait, maybe most of them.
We'll get it set up though, because setting this one up was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It was, hey, I'm in Amarillo this weekend, and I have family over, or I'm out of town or something, and then you'd be like, hey, I got a free weekend, and I'm not going to be in Amarillo, man.
Yeah.
But luckily, the stars aligned just right that we got you on.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday to be on here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in or listened in. You can find us on YouTube at Derby Dallas 12X, or you can listen in. If watching's not your thing, you can listen in on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts at the Driver's Seat Podcast. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below on who you'd like to see next. There's a lot of drivers in the area, So, yeah, thank y'all. I'm going to have to edit out that peace sign. That was probably a little cringe.